You never discover that just by watching creation. You can at most say that there is God and God is not. Can you all follow? And that is why it's so important to read the Bible. And the Bible is very important because God speaks to us through the Bible. It is foundational for life. Now these words are rather big. Let me write it in today's language. What the Bible does is, in the midst of, the Bible explains why there are so much frustrations in life and how you can find the reset button. In some electronic device, right, the reset button is not so easy to find. Alright, but computers are very easy. It's always just beside the on-off switch. So you just press the anything you don't need, still cannot just unplug the thing and plug in again. Right, you reset everything. And sometimes spoil the thing. But anyway, the Bible actually tells us why there are frustrations, where these frustrations come from, and how can you find the reset button so that you can be restored. Today, in the world that we live in, there are so many options until sometimes you don't know what to decide. When we grew up in an environment where there are fewer options. Today, there's so many choices to make. You know, you go to the food court, there's so many choices. You go to a particular store, there's so many choices. And in life, there's so many options. How do you know you make the best decision? The Bible tells us, it gives us wisdom, despite the many options. And then of course, many of us find life dissatisfying. We go for certain hobbies, certain interests, we pursue things, we want to be there, we want to do that. But then a lot of people after been there, done that, find that life is still not satisfying. The Bible tells us where we can find true joy and true satisfaction. And of course, finally, so many people are saying about so many things. How do I know what is the correct way of looking at things? The Bible gives us understanding. It enlightens life. So it's very foundational to life. So I've been thinking, what example can I think of as something that's very foundational? And as of this morning when I came here, right, I can think of your school handbook. But it's a very, up to this stage, the best example I can think of. But when I think about school, it's something like, handbook, But the school handbook basically says what you need to know as a student, right? All in a kind of handbook. You know, when we send our boys to school, right? We don't know what time we should send him there, we don't know where we can pick him up, we don't know what the school emphasizes on. We just take the handbook. Then actually all the answers are there. So actually the Bible is like our handbook for life. One of the reasons why some of us go through a lot of frustrations, sometimes we have so many choices, we're very blurred, we don't know what to do. And then we have so many things where we find life purposeless and meaningless. And then we have so many people saying so many things, we don't know exactly what is the correct version. It's because we don't read our Bibles enough. If you do, you will find that it is not so difficult. It's quite clear in many instances what's the right thing to do. But I want to say one other thing, that the Bible is more than just a handbook, life's handbook. The Bible is actually the Father's journal for us. You know, when my son, my oldest son is turning 9 this year. When he turned 6, my wife and I was deciding what present should we give him. But we were thinking, better don't buy a big present. Because 6 years old, you buy a big present, and he turns 7, he expects a bigger present, right? Oops, your parents not around. Anyway. And then when at 7, you have a bigger present, whatever when you're 8. And then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Wow, then at 6 really so big. Then by the time you reach 12, the present was very big, right? Then I cannot imagine how many more years will you. So he decided, maybe we should buy him a small one. Then the next year make it a bit bigger. So by the time he's 20, right, he's basically But when you buy small presents, sometimes it's not very meaningful, right? Then you give your son a small present, thanks, and then he played with the auntie's presents rather than the daddy's present, correct? So we decided, okay, we will write him a book. You know? So I show you, this is the book that we wrote for him, my wife and I. Hey. There. So we decided that we will write him a book. And this book has 6 chapters. Why? Because he's 6 years old. 1 chapter for every year. But because at 6 years old, right, he sees more pictures than words, right? Our book is very simple, more pictures than words. Ours is only 1 paragraph. You know? So we wrote when he was born, that particular year, our and I, whatever you remember, write 1 paragraph of it. Then when he turned 1, we then write, and then there are actually 6 pages to it. We only show you the cover. Okay? And then on the day itself, we decided that we will give him this book for his birthday present. Then of course when he turns 7, right, he actually says, so Daddy, is there going to be like another book? We tell him that, no, like just another chapter. Right? So we buy him a book, right, that you can keep adding the chapters. Then as he gets older and older, there will be fewer pictures and more words. Then last year when he just turned 8, he says, Daddy, can we do something different? Can you write me a letter instead? I said, okay, we'll write you a letter. So this was the letter we wrote to him. You know, and at 6, all the way to 8. And every birthday he will say, you know, you want either a continuation to the book or a letter. And it's very interesting when I give him the letter, right? He will take the thing, he run to one corner, and sit there, he look at it. He read from cover to cover. When you say it's so sweet, right? It's so cute, right? Actually, you see the cute version of it. What you see is the sweet version of it. This is the tiny, cute version of it. So he will smile, and then after he finished, right, you know what he do? He goes back to the front and he reads it again. Today, right, he's still keeping this letter, right, and occasionally he'll still take it up and he will read it again. You see, my dad never do this for me. So I never know what my dad thinks about me. In front of me, right, my dad always say, hey, you work harder or not? Can you study harder or not? Can you be like brother or not? But behind me, I know he says good things now. Because people do come back and they say, you know, your dad speaks highly of you. But he never speaks highly of me in front of me. Right? In front of me, he always tell me, I think you can always do better. You know that kind? So I never get a chance to hear what other people say. So I decided that I'll be different. I will tell my son what I think. And I will write it down so that as he grows older, he can read back what his father thinks. And it's very interesting that he is very interested to take him to read it every time. Why? Because he is interested to know what his father thinks. Actually, the Bible is not just a handbook. The Bible is the Father's journal for us. Many of us, right, don't see the Bible in this light. There is actually the Father's words for His children. Because if you see it in this way, right, when you read your Bible, by right, you should, after reading, you're like, you know, today if you do that in church, everybody think you're a man. You know what I mean? But by right, it should be like that. Because as you read what your Father writes about you, right, your heart will be warm. You will find comfort, you will find joy, your soul will be revived. But we don't, because we all just see the Bible as a reference book, not even a handbook. A reference book means when I'm free, I'll refer to it. Or when I need it, I refer to it. That's called a reference book. Actually, the Bible is a handbook to life, but it's the Father's journal for His Son. Now, if you see it from that perspective, it is not only foundational to life, it's foundational to your relationship with God. If you don't read it, you will never know what your Father thinks about you, what the Father thinks about the world that He made. When you see it from that angle, the next time when you do your quiet time, you won't be just doing your quiet time. Actually, there's only one phrase in English when you do your time. When someone says, hey, have you done your time? You know what does that mean? Who can tell me? Like, have you done your time or not? Yeah. When you do your time, right, it's when you're in jail. I don't know how many of you, when you do your quiet time, right, you feel like you're being imprisoned with God, you know, and so you have to do that time. And once you're done with it, right, I've done my quiet time, this I've done my time. It would be terrible, isn't it? It's almost like my son coming to me and says, whoops. Yeah. It's almost like when my son comes to me and says, you know, Daddy, talking to you like talking to the prison wardens. It's terrible, isn't it? So my friends, many of us are not looking at the Bible correctly. It is foundational to life as a handbook. It's foundational for the relationship because it's the father's journal for his son or for his daughter. And I'm meeting you. Especially the swap over some other. Okay. Now, it's not only foundational, it is invaluable. It's very interesting that the Bible used two metaphors to describe. One is gold, can you see that? And one is honey. Anybody can tell me why two illustrations for one purpose that is invaluable? Who can tell me? What's the difference between gold and honey, besides the fact that one you can eat, one you cannot? What is smelly?
One is solid, one is liquid.
Wow. One is solid and one is liquid. Wow, well done, man. Okay, of course you can also cut gold to make it liquid. Okay, anybody else? When you say something is precious as gold, what do you have in mind? Or when you say something? Who can tell me? How many of you have tried the Manuka honey? Have you heard of the Manuka honey? The Manuka honey is a honey I think that can be bought from Australia, I think. And it has different grades. Some of the grades is so potent that kids are not allowed to take it. You only take certain grade. As you get older, you can take the higher grade. Apparently, the Manuka honey is like can do anything. You are indigestion, you eat Manuka honey. You are sore throat, you eat Manuka honey. You got pimple, you can put a Manuka honey. That's what they tell me, you know. I don't know whether you are doing that before you sleep, you know. You put Manuka honey. Actually, you don't have a pimple. After that, you have his head bites. Also red color. So the thing about Manuka honey is it actually has a certain purpose besides a sweetener. It actually can heal, has a certain healing function to it. You see, when the Bible talks about the Bible being gold and honey, it's to tell you that it's invaluable in two ways. First, gold is invaluable in itself. Now you don't need to, gold doesn't need to do anything to you. You don't have to like apply gold on your life. Like for example, I think what I need to do is I take a gold bar, I need to stroke myself 10 times. Okay? It has no practical function whatsoever. It has value in itself. Gold is valuable when you sell it. You don't have to do anything to it. You don't have to use it to do anything to you. And don't do it, because if you do it, you'll probably get poisoned. Like, oh, you don't take all your gold stuff, melt it, or break it up in pieces, dissolve in water and drink it, you probably will go to the hospital because it has no help whatsoever in your body, but it is expensive because of the kind of metal it is. But honey, sorry, the way I say it, I'm calling alright. I was so afraid when I said this, I said yes, and then for the honey, the voice in the voice said yes. I see some boys just start drinking and get a bit worried though. Anyway, so I'm married already. So for the Manuka honey, right, what it does is it serves a very good purpose and very high quality